Welcome to Wildlife Matters, a podcast from Dorset Wildlife Trust. Join us as we share news, articles and conversations exploring all the work we do to protect wildlife and wild spaces here in our beautiful county of Dorset. In our episode this month, we join Wilder Communities Officer Anona Dawson as she chats with Vicar Tessa Nesbit about the restoration of a hidden parcel of woodland adjacent to St Michael's Church in Hamworthy. So let's join them now as they reflect on how this collaborative community project has brought a well-loved pocket of wild space back to life.
Hi, thanks for inviting me here. My name's Anona Dawson. I'm really happy to be here with Tessa Nesbit.
Hi, Anona. It's lovely to be here with you.
So I joined Dorset Wildlife Trust in June 2021, just after COVID. And the Urban Green Project, I was managing the Urban Green Project for Dorset Wildlife Trust, and it had been going since 2020 with another officer who then left. COVID disrupted it a little bit. Urban Green was funded by National Community Lotteries Fund, and it was a 2-year project initially, extended for a year, and it was really about looking at communities in the BCP area to get people to be more involved with their own green spaces in their own locality. 5 sites were chosen, one of which was St Michael's, because it has a 2-hectare woodland behind the church, and it was very much in need of managing for wildlife and people, but the benefit for the parish, really the community of the parish.
So I think it was wonderful because we had been going, Urban Green had helped us get started. So the church had always cared about this woodland, this little copse, but not ever had enough knowledge. A lot of the people in the church had grown up here, had played in Bluebell Woods. They remembered coppicing. They remember stuff from when they were really young, and a lot of the congregation were older and concerned about it. And I know as I walked my dog through there, it was really hard to get through. It was overgrown, dark, and a little bit scary. And we started thinking about it. But when Urban Green came and Dorset Wildlife Trust came on board, it helped us start. And then obviously we had that stop. And so we, through COVID, and then we had to sort of get going again. And then you came along and were helping us to be independent, think about what we did in there.
Yes. So when I was brought in to the trust, when I took over from the previous post holder, I've done quite a lot of habitat management work on different sites, woodlands and heathland in this area a long time ago. And I sort of started my career in Dorset, and particularly on the west side of Poole and for the council. And one of the things that sort of enticed me to the job really was the fact that there was a 2-hectare little woodland, an old bluebell coppice that I knew it from family connections as well, from a nephew who's now 38 years old, and he used to play in it. And so it was a kind of a personal thing to then come to the woodland. And I remember the day that we met, it was a really beautiful sunny day, and some of these trees that we walked through this little woodland were just extraordinary. One particular tree was just a very old oak tree.
Yeah, you love it. You always say how much you love it.
Just my favourite tree. And some of the parishioners didn't know it existed because it was just covered, and there was a lot of laurel. Yeah. By the time I'd come in, the previous post holder had, there was a contractor who had got rid of a lot of laurel, but there was a lot of other trees around it sort of strangling the tree. And so when we opened it out, it was really quite a moment for people, seeing how beautiful the woodland was. And it was lovely to meet yourself and a group of people who had really had their heart was in that woodland. They were really keen to do something for nature, to increase nature in the woodland, you had a young group.
Yes, we do have a toddler group that meets, and they're called Little Acorns, and they meet every Monday. But I think the initial thing was also that Friends of Hamworthy Park,
yes,
had who are a community group here and care very much for the green spaces, and so a person who's very active in that group got involved with us, and it started this joined up thinking, and so a lot of them still help us now. We're still connected. We've got things happening in the summer, even next week, where we're having a picnic and a bug count and that kind of stuff. But that group also were part of the sort of the impetus to make it happen, because they provided bodies.
Yeah.
So it really helped to have extra people who were keen to see that woodland opened up, as it were.
So yes, we both know the person we're talking about, Dave, and he's really keen on the woodland, and he knows the area, and he's I mean, I don't like this term, but it's like a community champion, if you like, but someone in the community that is very interested and that is good with people and talks to people and coordinates things together. Someone who lives in the community. Correct. I mean, I'm an outsider, and we often environmental professionals are outsiders in the community. We go into communities and it's about really, for me, it's about really getting to know people on a not a personal level, I don't want to say that, but just in a friendship way, and to bounce ideas.
You're an enabler.
Yes,
that's what you do.
Yes.
That's what you enabled us to start thinking about it, and to knowing that we could do something about this.
Exactly, and it's to sort of stand back a little bit and to listen first is really important in community organising, and when you're giving the community some tools to feel more empowered and more confident, because that's the thing that I noticed when I came on board, was that the community wasn't very confident in dealing with this fairly big piece of land that a tree safety report had been done by us through the funder, which was great, but then you then have a responsibility to manage the trees, and I think that was a little bit of a challenge at first, and a difficulty, because once you have a tree safety report, then you're liable for things. So we had to sort of tackle that very quickly when I came on board, and to get rid of some of those overhanging hung trees and old trees that were too near the pathways. But I think it is very much about listening and sitting back and leading from behind, really, and empowering people, and having an awareness of the community and what they actually want. And it might conflict with environmental conservationists, the professional conservationists, but it's about gently guiding, I think.
I think there's also the helpful thing was getting a bit more knowledge about these things. So realizing what kind of wildlife was in there, what we could attract, what we were going to enhance, because we were lightening up the woodland and taking out invasive stuff, and what we could expect. And that was what you helped us with. And also to know more about the plants, to know what was meant to be there and what wasn't meant to be there. I mean, we didn't have a clue. You just naturally think holly's meant to be growing everywhere. Yes. But it wasn't, and it wasn't helping.
Yes.
It wasn't nice for humans, and and overgrown for the animals. And it's been wonderful to see, as we've got more knowledge, that we've got more confident.
Yes, absolutely. You're so much more confident now. You can see by your the Facebook page, and how much I've just been through the woodland, and I haven't actually visited the woodland for probably half a year since last year, and it looks amazing. You've done some amazing things because you gained that confidence, I think, and that's all we're here for. We're a relatively small organisation. Dorset Wildlife Trust is 75 employees, and we're spread out throughout a very big county, and long gone are the days that we can maintain control and just invite people into our reserves and not go into other areas, because it's about disseminating information and empowering local people. I think one of the first worries I had when I first came on board was this. Woodland had a tree safety report that we needed to make sure that was acted upon because of difficulties, litigation, and things like that. But it was also to work with the council to get because it has a tree preservation order on it, and to get permission to take some of the trees that weren't the trees that we didn't want there, and that we wanted to manage it properly. And that's a long process. So we had a time limit for this. The project was in its final year. Most of the money had been sitting there because of COVID and various other things. So there was an urgency about it. But with the community that yourself, Tessa, and Dave, and many of your people who are the parishioners,
and some of the neighbours,
as well, they were really on board, and they just wanted, they were delighted for the help. I think it was really important to have some kind of a management plan, not a scientific one either. A gentle one that was easy to read, that was easy to look at and say, yes, we could do that in this month, or some ideas, and also giving information of other people that could help you.
Yeah, I think that definitely that structure was put in place. And I think now we know that there's seasons when we can work in it, and there's seasons when we just enjoy it and we rest, and we give the woodland a rest, and and that kind of thing. So I think that you helped us with that a lot. And also sort of putting some celebrations in place was really good, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fun.
To enjoy the journey,
yes,
while we looked after it, while we learnt about it as we started to clear it. And we had some fun with that, which was good.
So it was a great opportunity, I think. Right from the beginning, I wanted Dorset Coppice Group involved, because they go around to different woodlands. They've got huge expertise. They're great people to work with. They're very community-minded. And I wanted them on board from the beginning. And I spoke to them, and there was someone from the Dorset Coppice Group who came out and looked at the woodland, and we looked at different ways of doing things. He's also, the organisation's really keen to work with the community more. And they then, the Urban Green Project employed them to come into the woodland to teach a little bit about coppicing. So if you remember, he brought all his things, and we had a session of learning how to coppice. And I think the community really enjoyed that and gave them more confidence. And then he came back and finished off a contract. So it sort of worked really well.
Mutually flourishing, really.
Yeah. And the celebration day was really good at the end of the project.
Yeah, it was really successful and drew even more people into it, not just the people who'd been at the centre of it, but more of the community, and seeing young children lots of children come with their families felt really good that day, I thought. Yeah. And I know I sat and did some wood.
Yes, I've got photographs of you doing that.
Making a bracelet and with a sharp knife in my hand, and loved it. and found it very therapeutic. And even the doctor's practice next door have remained interested.
Yeah, oh great.
That's good. And actually is leading on to us doing a garden.
Yeah.
Fantastic. A sensory garden at the front of the church.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And that is moving forward now.
Oh, great.
And should be in place in the next few months. But, for them, they've wanted to use it as a place where they can do some social prescribing.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll see more of that as
well. That's quite forward. A big thing at the moment, social prescribing and going, sort of helping people to enjoy being outside a bit more and to be calm. Yes. And I've talked to a lot of medical professionals who take people out into gardens, woodlands, and I know, and it's great because the practice, Hamworthy practice, is so involved with the community.
Yes, it is very much. I mean, for myself, I know well-being when I go in there. Just earlier in the nesting season, I was walking through, and I go most days because it's quick. I don't always have enough time to go a long way to walk the dog, but if I just pop over the road and it's peaceful. But I was walking through, and there's a little nesting box, and as I walked under the nesting box, a little blue tit stuck his head out and sat halfway in and halfway out. And the joy that I felt was unbelievable. Yes. I thought, well, it's just a little bird. But it was such fun, and it felt like there was life in the woodland, like we had really done our bit. We'd made something happen, as it were, that I was connected with this little bird for the second, it was wonderful, and I can see the benefits of that for others. Many people talk to me about the woodland now. They'll say they walk through it most days. I chat to people a lot in there.
Do you think more people have been talking to you about the woodland now that you've done? We've done the project, and there's more, because there were lots of people who used it beforehand, but maybe I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think it's not that people formally talk to me, but I think I bump into more people there.
Yeah.
I think we've made more connections with people. So our neighbours, we know them by name,
Yes.
And whether that has been, we've had to deal with, say, issues in the woodland, or we're enjoying working together. For whatever reason, we connected as a community. They live right on the boundary of the woodland, and we are trying to manage it and get to know people in the area. So I think for various reasons, we talk more, we see each other more. Then it's more likely you're going to see someone now because it's open and the paths are negotiable, whereas before they weren't. It was impossible to see from one end, to the other.
And we kind of managed the pathway for there was a vague circular walk, but they were cross paths and things, and now we've demarcated it with logs and
that was lovely. It was lovely that the community came up with that idea that these logs would sort of be the side of the paths, and it just looked. Once they'd done it, they were so proud of this. And when people move the logs, they're always back in there, like rejigging them, because they care about the woodland.
Yeah, and I think it also keeps people away from more sensitive habitats. So when you're managing a landscape, it's about giving people better pathways, but also it's about managing people in a sensitive area. And I mean there's a lot more to do. We've just been talking about the nutrients in that woodland and creating beds of cleavers and plants like that, which we can take out in the spring and stuff. And then you're planting all those bluebells, which is an amazing thing.
Funded for 1,000 bluebells, English bluebells.
Yes,
which we're very excited about, and this, learning that they will take over eventually. And it'll go back to how it was meant to be. It's wonderful. But there's also an area of the woodland that we've not even touched.
No,
which
that's quite important, because in an old a woodland coppice. You don't want to hazel. It's a oak hazel coppice mainly, as you know, and you don't want to do everything all at once. You don't want to shock the woodland because it hasn't had anything done to it for so long. So you do want to keep areas which are untouched. And it's a small woodland, and it's in an urban environment, and it's well used, which is important. I mean, it's in an area of potentially high vandalism as well, this area. And I looked at the interpretation sign that we did, and there's not a mark on it, and that was a surprise to me today. I did expect to see graffiti on it. Amazing. Yeah. So that's really nice.
It hadn't even occurred to me that they might have that. And we do have some, stuff going on in there that can be difficult to manage. But one of the things is, litter is an issue, but because people are so committed to it, and Friends of Hamworthy Park are great litter pickers, and they sort of mobilise us, we regularly are picking up litter in there, and it's just a matter of keeping on top of things, really. And I think, there are sometimes difficulties with, and originally there was a lot of antisocial behaviour going on in there. And now I've had the opportunity actually recently to talk to two young lads who were up to no good in there. But when I explained to them that their litter, all I was asking is that they'd pick up their own litter and take it home, that this woodland wasn't just left, that it was cared for by the community. They said, of course we do that. We're sorry, we hadn't realised that this piece of land meant this much to people. But that was it was a great sort of learning moment. It's initially you could get angry, but actually when I spoke to them, they were really decent young men,
and they're part of the community as well. And I think, I think we. I mean. I think it is a problem. I think we lose people from between the ages of 13 and 25. We lose people in the environment movement. And I think young kids and young teenagers, they get a lot of environmental information at school, and it's global information. They're very, very highly switched on. They're switched on to online as well, so digital. And that's really important. But we seem to lose, older teenagers, and obviously it's to do with that. They're more concerned with identity at that time of life, and it is a battle to keep that group engaged. And I think people come back to environment when they have small children, and they're using these sort of spaces like muddy boots in the woodland. And I think also adults forget what it's like to be a teenager. And what we've done as environmentalists, we've protected landscapes, we've controlled them, we've signposted them, we allow people to do certain things and not other things. Really important for conservation and habitat and species. But we tidy things up as well, and so teenagers are always being moved on and out of a place. And I've spoken, like yourself, to people in the Bluebell Wood, young teenagers, and they're just hanging out because that's what they want to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. And as a society,
they like the space, and at times they've built dens. We've seen young kids build dens, but we've seen the teenagers build dens because they want to be somewhere and feel safe.
Yes.
And so I think there's lots of work to be done with more of a welcome, so that they take responsibility for it as well as enjoying it, and for hanging out.
Yes, and not be, channeled into doing things a certain way, I think. And I mean, in my career, it's always been, because I've been a warden, and it's always been about taking down dens. And I know that's a controversial issue because it's also a fire risk in certain areas, and then you get, I've worked for local government, so you get complaints by elders and youngsters as well. But I think that some sort of wildness is important, and that's what we've lost because, I think it's either developed land or there's nothing that's sort of left to just go wild, and it is a problem, I think.
And we want kids to be outside and enjoying getting dirty.
Absolutely.
And discovering all sorts of things, environmentally. So they do need some freedom around that.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So, it's trying to find that balance.
Yeah.
But obviously we've got young children in there, and I suppose they too. The younger they're in there, the better.
Yes, it is, and that's really important. But young children get a lot from school, but also they need access to wilder, bigger places, more exciting, and because that instills a love of the environment, and then they take it. Hopefully, they will take it through. To when they're older. I think it's really difficult. It's a difficult thing to manage access to these spaces, because essentially St Michael's Wood, it's open access, and it needs to be open access, but it's owned by an organisation, the church, and it needs to be safe, etc. And then you've got residents around, so it's a quite a tricky juggling act.
And there have been moments that are challenging, but part of that is what it is to have the woodland and to care about it, and to find ways to build relationship, to deal with the issues or concerns or anxieties from local, especially from neighbours, because they're the ones who feel it the most, actually.
Yeah.
So they're watching it. So if there is, for example, some antisocial behaviour, they want it dealt with in a certain way, but it's trying to find some joined up thinking, and so it's been interesting. But I think there is an opportunity always to look at how we work together.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, one of the things that I've loved doing in the past is a way to do that, to involve more older teenagers, is to get them to be part of a design of something. So I've tried to involve secondary schools, and at the moment that's difficult because of the curriculum is increased, and politically that's really difficult because of funding for the schools and time away from school, and putting that into the curriculum. But I've worked on projects where we have included teenagers in the design of something. So, for instance, in a countryside setting, and a bench, or written material, or journalism, or something like that, and they become involved, and then they feel more ownership of the space that they're in, and that can help in a way. But it is quite time consuming.
Yeah, it is, I'm sure. One of the ways we've seen a few young people come in is to do their Duke of Edinburgh hours.
Oh, great.
They come in,
yeah.
And I know my neighbour, his daughter came over, and that was part of her sort of service.
Yes,
it's
the award,
community,
isn't it?
involvement. So that was good. And then we do have a young woman who's studying at Bournemouth University.
That's right. I brought her to the woodland. She contacted me.
But she's been doing she stayed involved, and she's coming back.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, she's coming back.
Hamworthy, actually.
That's right. Yeah, so she's been part of doing some of the counting of the bugs and the plants.
That's right. She's really interested in species.
Surveys.
Yeah, the surveys.
Kind of thing. Yeah. So,
and also the photography. I asked her to do some,
right.
like before and after, because it's quite important in terms of managing a woodland to get before and after photographs, so you can see the change of the woodland and the ground flora. And it's really, really nice. I mean, just going back to the woodland just now and seeing the difference. Apart from all the cleavers, but that's high nutrient. But it's so beautiful, and then to see that tree, and it's just on its own, and it's just has room to breathe, and really nice, really lovely. And the paths are intact.
Yes,
and the logs that we put down are still
there. It's a beautiful space. It's quiet. It's peaceful for being where it is.
Hugely urban environment.
That's right. And it does have a big pathway that runs down the one side, but it means there's access for people. And now, especially with the signs, they know how to get in and where to go. In fact, an elderly lady said to me the other day, I always got lost in the woodland, but now the pathways I can see through. I can find my way out from one end to the other.
And it's not so intimidating for people.
It was very intimidating, very dark.
It's been so lovely to talk to you again, Tessa. Really lovely to see you, and lovely to see the woodland in such a good state and flourishing now from a very dark, intimidating, lacking in visible biodiversity to something that's could be just get better and better.
Yeah. Well, we're hoping that that's the case, that we just keep going. But thank you for all your support and your wisdom and teaching and financial support as well. You've given us tools that we still use, and we're most appreciative. And it's good fun, and it's lovely to see people taking it on. I don't lead it anymore, which is great.
Perfect.
Yes, and so it belongs in the community now. So thank you. Really appreciate that.
If you'd like to get involved with the work we do to protect nature in Dorset, then why not consider becoming a volunteer? You might long to do more outdoors, connecting with nature. You might want to learn a new skill or meet new people. There are lots of reasons people volunteer with us, so why not find out what opportunities are available near you by heading to our website. Go to dorsetwildlifetrust.org.uk. Together we can make a wilder Dorset.